Hi, my name's Simon, and I'm going to tell you a bit about my story about how I came to know Christ. From the earliest age I can remember, I have always been involved in a church. My parents put me into Sunday school from before I can even remember. So my whole life has been kind of involved in church somehow. From the time I was a kid, I was hearing the Sunday school stories. As I grew up, I became involved in youth group. I started being involved as I got older in Bible studies. And then when I kind of got to high school, I started going along to church. As I went through all these things, it was just always just kind of felt natural. I was there with my big brother James, and together it's just what we did. It's just what we knew. As I got older, got to high school, things started going a bit differently. See, I was a bit of an unhappy kid. My parents, when I was in primary school, had lots of arguments. They fought a lot and ended up getting divorced when I was about in year 5. And I always had this kind of, sadness inside me that kind of just always seemed to be wanting to find something to fill that sadness, this kind of hole. I didn't have that close relationship with my dad. He wasn't on the scene not much. And as I kind of got to high school, this kind of feeling just continued to be there, and then the party scene kind of started opening up as I got to 11 and 12, where all these people around me, this new group of friends, seemed to be telling me this whole new other way to live, which I'd be able to find happiness and fulfillment in. So that whole kind of party scene, that was just, I wanted to do what they did. They seemed happy, and so I went along with it, involved in all kinds of things. And as I did this life that was so different from what I'd been brought up with, I never actually felt happier. I kind of just kept feeling this kind of sense of something not right. It was during this stage I was had a double life. I was really lucky though. My Christian friends that I kind of went through youth group with, they always kept on following me up. They kept on trying to talk to me and share kind of what was going on with my life. They kept on wanting to share Jesus with me. When I got to about the end of first year uni, my life had just been going in this downward spiral, just going totally out of control. My old Bible study group asked me to come away for a weekend away. I didn't want to give up my whole weekends because I had parties and things that I was involved in that I wanted to go to, but I went up for one night. And it's amazing, God only needed that one night. It was up on the beach up near Foster, and this one night I was up there and I was bored. These guys were just sitting around, just kind of chatting and chilling out, and right on the beach, and I was like, guys, we just got to get out there. And so I was, guys, I'm just going to go for a walk. And so I went for a walk. One of my mates tagged along, and as we walked, they asked what's been going on in my life. And for some reason, for this first time, while I knew they had some idea about what my life was like, I didn't feel a need to hide what was going on in my life. And so I started sharing all that was going on. These feelings of doubt, these feelings of sadness and emptiness. And as I chatted and talked about how kind of God fit into the whole scheme of things, things started kind of falling in place. I remember saying that I felt distant from God. And that one moment, talking about how I felt distant from God, made me realize that if I to feel distant from something, meant that at some stage I was close to something. To feel distant from God meant that at some stage I must have been closer to God. And that even to feel distant means that God must have been real, because you can't feel distant from something that doesn't exist. And it's like in a blink of an eye, all these kind of dots started joining up. And all these stories I heard through Sunday school and church, these stories about God's love, about God's salvation, about Jesus dying. See, I'd always heard about these things, and I'd always even said that Jesus had died for everyone, but in this one moment I realized that Jesus actually also had died for me. So often we can just kind of leave ourselves out of the picture and think about other people. But as we talked, realised that Jesus actually had died for me. This whole time of feeling distant from God and empty, it wasn't because God was distant from me, it was because I was distant from God. God had always been there. I had just been ignoring him and shutting him out. As I went to these parties, it wasn't that he was not there, but it was just that I didn't want anything to do with him, and so I was trying to ignore him and just leave him behind. That night I realised that I wanted to be in a relationship with God, and that the whole time God had wanted to be in a relationship with me. And so that night, I prayed with my friend and asked that God would forgive me for all the stuff that I've been doing, for ignoring him and rejecting him. And I asked God's help that I might change my ways, I might change my life. I went to bed that night feeling really ecstatic but worried, because I felt a change in me. At the same time I was worried I was going to wake up the next morning and it'll all have just been like a dream. But the next morning I woke up and I knew that in my heart that God was real, and that he wanted a relationship with me, and that while things weren't going to be necessarily easy, that he was there for me, as he had always been. Since then, I've had huge ups and downs. Times when I've just loved being able to read my Bible and pray. There's been times though when that's the last thing I want to do. There's this constant battle between what you want to be doing and what you actually do. Being a Christian doesn't mean straight away you're perfect. That's why Jesus had to die, because we're not. But it's about seeking to continue to trying to live for God. We're always going to mess up. We're always going to make mistakes. But it's not feeling enslaved to them and just thinking there's no hope. It's recognizing that we do have a chance to be forgiven and to move on and try again. My Christian friends, they had never given up on me. They continue to share with me. So, no matter what kind of situation your friends are at, your family are at, share Jesus with them. Because it only takes a moment to transform a life.